Hi everyone, welcome back to another video and another Viva Las Vegas Stamps Design Team project. Today I'm going to show you some ATCs that I made for an art retreat that's coming in April. I made about 27 ATCs and I know that's way too much. And I also made these back in January. I know I'm an overachiever, but I had a lot of these backgrounds already done in advance. So when I found out about the ATC swap, I was digging through my stash and took these out and cut them to size, and all I had to do was stamp the images and sentiments and put them on the ATCs. So I did 3 different backgrounds on here, and I used 3 or 4 different images and 3 different sentiments. And this set I'm going to show you first is the bubble background, which is you fill a container with either dishwashing soap or like the kids' bubbles in a small container, and then you fill it with water, and then you can either take a whisk to whisk up the bubbles, or what I did was take a straw and just blow bubbles into the container. It's a messy technique, but it's really cool and fun. And then what you do is you take some spray and you spray like Delusions or Color Wash or Lindy's or the SEI Tumble Dyes. You spray that on top of the bubbles, and you just take your glossy cardstock or crumb coat, and you just drag it over the bubbles and you let it dry. And these I used the glossy cardstock. And after these dried, I did take some sprays and made some drips on these. And like I said, these are originally 4x6s. So after they dried and I put them in my stash, I just cut them into 2.5 and 3, but 2.5 by 3.5. And then I used the girl jumping rope, and I colored all these images with the Artist Loft watercolor. And for the girl, I used some stickles for the polka dots of her dress. And this sentiment I used was, if you have crazy friends, you have everything. And I also I edged the ATCs with black craft paint, and I backed them with Cereal Box weight chipboard. And this is the one-eye monster, and I used I'm Not Insane, I'm Crazy with the side of Awesome. And with the 4x6 size, I was able to get 2 of each postcard. And this is another one. And this one I used the Sitting Flamingo. And then I'm Not Weird, I'm Not Weird, I'm limited edition. And this one I used bubble paper, not bubble paper, the photo paper, just to see what it would do, and I used Color Wash. I can see I have the re-glue. We'll be touching over here. Excuse me. And I used that guy. And I used her again. This next set, I was playing around with watered down craft paint, sprays, and some, not wax paper, plastic wrap. And what I did was I put some, this is watered down craft paint. I put some watered down craft paint onto the glossy cardstock, and then I just took some of the plastic wrap and laid it on top, and so it can create all kinds of cool texture pieces from the wax paper onto the, not wax paper, plastic wrap. So you can create some cool texture with the plastic wrap. Oopsie. And there you go with the results. Really cool. Again with the I'm Not Weird, I'm a limited edition. The heart blue. Here you can really see the background. And this is just, this is a plastic wrap. I was just playing around with, I think when I was doing the one technique with the photo paper and the sprays, this was just glossy cardstock, and I was just spraying. I think I forgot this was glossy cardstock and not the photo paper when I was playing with that technique. So that's just a bunch of sprays. Here's some more of the plastic wrap background. I think this one was spray. I think either, I think it was the SEI Tumble guy with the yellow. This was craft paint. And this is craft paint, the magenta. Maybe not, I just don't have that feel. Very cool old school technique that I learned way back in the day. And this one. Now the last set, this was like an off-take of the technique that I first learned with wax paper. And when I learned how to do this, we took a piece of wax paper, crumpled it up really well so you can get all kinds of nice creases into it, and then flatten it back out, and then putting it onto the glossy cardstock or chrome coat, and then taking an iron and ironing it with the after you put it on the glossy cardstock, you take it like a typing paper, like printer paper, and putting that on top of it, and then ironing it, and then you get the resist from the wax paper onto the glossy cardstock and just spray over that, and you get, you know, the cool texture. Well, the off-take on that is taking a embossing folder and some wax paper, and you put the wax paper, a piece of wax paper in between the embossing folder, and then use your big shot to emboss, to emboss it. And then you take the wax paper and you put it onto the chrome coat, which I used on these two. And then with a piece of printer paper, and then I used my craft iron right here, and then ironed it, and then you take the wax paper off. You can see, well, not on this one too well, but I used what did I use? Oh, I forget what ink pad I used. I blurred over that, and I think I did some bubble, some more bubble background on top of that. You can see right there. And this one, you can see this one a little bit more. It's a hit and miss with this. And this one I used Tim Holtz, one of the retro ones, and these two I used, I think this is the diamond pattern from Sizzix. And this one I used the Mold Non Distress ink. That's really cool. And then these three, I made a card. I used half and I cut the cardstock, the white cardstock in half, and I sprayed some Delusions and what else did I use? Some SEI Tumble Dye, and I sprayed it onto the glossy side of my cutting mat, and I sprayed some water, and I just took each half of the cardstock and dropped it and dragged it onto the card, and to get the cool background effect. And once that dried, I used 1/2 of to make a card. And then this half I still had left in my stash, and I decided to use it for ATCs. So that's what I did. And I added a little bit more background to here. I added a little bit more to the background on here. And I used the Hexagon stamp. And then I made some tissue tape with the tissue tape stamps that Viva Las Vegas Stamps has. This is the Chevron. And then I stamped this Flamingo, and I put him on dimensionals. So that's that one. And this is the same girl. And I used the tissue paper that I made, and I made banners. And then in this one I used the Chevron one, tissue tape. The tissue tape that I made, and I used the brick stamp that Viva Las Vegas Stamps has, and stamped that around, and then stamped him. And that's them. So be sure I'm going to put all of the stamps that I used in the description below, along with the links to the Viva Las Vegas Stamps blog and the store. And thanks for watching. Oh, and stay tuned. I'm going to do a video on the book that I made to put the ATCs in. Thanks for watching.